Now let's take a look at the statement level or the survey level one more time and dig into this a little bit deeper. Lots of great information here. It's very easy for us to get actionable. We can see how the team feels at two different points in time. This is useful stuff. But now we can go a little bit deeper. And what we do now is we look at something called distributional characteristics. We click on this button and what we see are box plots. Now box plots are visual representations of the distribution or the variability of our data sets. That's really useful because it kind of shows us the degree to which people are agreeing or disagreeing with each other to the same statements. And as coaches, we want to know that stuff. Now, let's look at this just to kind of see how these relate. What you do is you go up and you can look at the particular statements and you can see how they relate to each other. In this case, for instance, we're looking at a certain statement, number 12. It says, formal written documents are used to supplement rather than replace faster, more informal communication. All right, that's fine. What this is telling us right off the bat, we can see that there's some disagreement here. We can see that compared to what was happening before, this team is saying that this is no longer the case. All right, fine. That's what they're saying. But how did they actually respond? Well, by looking at the same statement in the box plot, we can see that there's a couple of values here, a couple of characteristics that show up. The maximum value is 5. The upper quartile is 3. The median is 3. The lower quartile is 2. And the minimum value is 1. Okay, we get the maximum value and the minimum value, but what about the quartiles and the median and those kind of things? It can be a little bit confusing perhaps. We do have a definition here, so you can look at this and kind of get an idea what's going on, but let me give an example instead. I think that could be useful to kind of go into more detail. Let's talk about the mean and the median first. We use that quite a bit in comparative agility because at the end of the day, both of these things really are a way for us to summarize a set of data in one number. It's an easy way for us to make sense of quite a bit of complex information. The mean does that really well and the median does it well, but they are a little bit different. The mean or the average is something we all know. All you do is you add up all the numbers and you divide it by the number of numbers. We all know what that is. We've probably done it since grade school. And then you have the median, which is really the middle value in a list of numbers sorted in ascending order. So you list all the different numbers and you look at the value that's in the middle of those numbers. Now, why do we do this? Are we trying to confuse you? Are we trying to make things worse? We really are not. There really are some benefits to these particular ways of looking at numbers, and they're quite significant. I would say this is one of the most important reasons we use the mean because it's easy to understand by everyone. Everyone understands what an average is, so that gives you value right away. And honestly, that is huge. At the end of the day, the reason you use comparative agility is because you want to get some insights. You want to look at your data. You want to have a quantitative way to do continuous improvement. And an average number is very easy for you to understand. It gives you instant insights. And that's one of the reasons we love averages and means. Now, the median also does some of this, but it has an additional little twist, and that is that it is resistant to outliers. That means that extreme values don't really matter to the median. Let me give an example to show you how that works. Let's say you have 5 people on a team. You send out a survey and you get results back for one particular question. And the statements come back, and here is the response: 2, 2, 2, 2, and 5. Okay, you summarize this. The average is 13 divided by 5, which is 2.6. Okay, that's fine. 2.6 is the average result you get for that statement. Now, what about the median? Well, the median is actually 2. And the reason for that, of course, is that the middle value here is 2. You ignore the 5. The mean is 30% higher than the median. Okay, so there's a difference here. Now, what's really correct? Well, to be honest with you, both of these are correct. One is the average, one is the median, they're both correct. But the idea here is that you get two perspectives on the same thing. I would say in this particular case, the median is probably a better representation of what is happening in that data set. There's 4 people on that team that's saying 2, there's one that's saying 5. 2 is probably a better approximation of what's actually going on. But both are correct. Average and median does the same thing in a sense that it's trying to explain a number of a data set. Now, let's go back again here and we're looking at the box plot. Okay, we understand what the median is. We understand the difference from the average. What is this telling us here? We see the shape of this particular box plot. What is that really telling us? How can we make sense of this? Well, let's go back to the box plots and try to show what that does. It is a way for us to look at the distribution. We talked about that. It shows the variability and the central value in your data set. That could be useful, but let's take this example a little bit deeper to see what this means. If we look at the statement we just looked at, formal written documents are used to supplement rather than replace faster, more informal communication. If we look at the responses we got for that particular statement, here's the responses. We had 7 people and they responded as follows. 1, 2, there was 4 people who said 3, and then there was 5. Okay, those are the responses, and that's how that's represented. Okay, what does that mean? Well, let's look at this now in detail. The median here is pretty simple for us to see. We look at that and it's 3. It's this number here, right in the middle. You see 1, 2, 3, and then you have value number 4, which is right in the middle of those 7 numbers. That's the median. Now the maximum is 5, of course, and the minimum is 3. That's easy enough. But what about the upper quartile? Now the upper quartile is the middle number of the higher numbers. So if you look at the median being here, and you look at the next 3 numbers, the middle number in between here is the 75th percentile. It's sort of it's sort of the middle of the middle, if you will. It's the median of the median. And what you find here on the upper quartile is that is 3. If you look at the lower quartile, which again is sort of the lower median of the median, you look at those 3 numbers here, and then you look at the median here, which is 2. So now you can see that 50% of the values are encapsulated inside of these upper and lower quartiles. That can be useful because now you understand where the majority of the data is belonging. That can be really useful when you look at the distribution of the data and try to understand how the teams are responding. Look at this here, for instance, statement number 7. What we know right away now, looking at the upper quartile and the lower quartile, is that the majority of the responses is between here. That means between 1 and 4. That's a large distribution. What that tells you is that in this statement, which is statement number 7, which is this statement here, management sets goals but doesn't tell team members how to achieve them. That's a controversial statement, and you can tell right away that the team members are not really agreeing with each other in this case. You can see that there's a lot of sort of disconnect here, whether this is really the case. This is great stuff for us as coaches. Now, look at this here, for instance. This is another statement, and this is statement number 10. Look at that box plot. Everything here is quite contained. And what you see here is because there is not a lot of variation here, you can see that team members are more or less agreeing with this particular statement. This is statement number 10, which says, which you can look at here, and we can say team members communicate in a high bandwidth manner without undue interference. Okay, they seem to agree with that to a high degree. That's something you could tell right away by looking at the box plot. So I hope this makes sense to you. I hope you can see how this could be useful in addition to the mean, in addition to having the mean and the median. Now you can actually not just look at the differences between the data sets, you can also look at the variance in the data set itself. That to me is coaching gold, because once you have this, now you can help yourself ask some really great questions, have some meaningful conversations, and truly help teams continuously improve. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful.